Hey everyone, welcome to the LocalStack community event for the month of November. I'm Harsh and I will be your host for this meetup. And I'm just so excited to welcome all of you to this meetup that we have been running for the past couple of years or so. And it is just so great to see all of you once again, listening about some of the latest updates about LocalStack and also be welcoming to some of our external speakers who talk about how they have been using LocalStack for advancing their own local cloud development and testing pipelines. So this meetup will all be about some of the latest updates that we have released in the Snowflake Emulator. And we have an external speaker with us who will be talking about how he is testing Elasticsearch alerts with the help of LocalStack. So just to move ahead to talk a bit about the agenda, we have a very simple intro and welcome today with some two exciting updates that I'm pretty sure will really get you pumping. Uh, Followed by that, we'll have the first talk, which is by Przemek, and this would be about what's new in the latest local stack for Snowflake. Przemek is part of our Snowflake team, and he has been spearheading the effort, the whole development efforts on the Snowflake emulator. So right now, he's one of the best people to talk about some of the new stuff that we have put out in our emulator and how the data teams are using it for advancing their dev and test pipelines. This would be followed on by a Q&A. But after a quick session, like we'll have another talk by Avinash, who is going to be talking about how he is using Elasticsearch and ElastAlert in LocalStack for testing out local alerts. Avinash is a prolific AWS community builder. He has also written a blog about the same topic, and I'm just so excited for him to share some of his experiences and his insights on what it takes to set up LocalStack for the local development pipelines. This would again be followed on by a Q&A. So feel free to post all your questions in. We'll have a Slido Q&A, which I will be sharing on a bit later. But just to talk about some of the most exciting things that we have put out. So the big news is that we are celebrating a major milestone, and this is our Series A funding round that just passed on this month. In case you have not been updated with our latest on social media, we just raised our Series A funding, and this is such an exciting thing for us because LocalStack in its origin has been a community project. I'm not sure how many of you folks know this story, but the whole inception of the project was literally on a subway because our CTO, Waldemar, he wanted to unblock a few of the engineers on his team for testing out AWS development stuff, even in slow internet speeds or even in offline mode altogether. So this was the start of LocalStack, and since then it has been a slow and gradual rise where we have kind of transitioned from just a regular open source project into a more professional product, which is shaping out the development experiences for a lot of companies and a lot of teams out there. So with this Series A, we are just hoping that we would be able to build out more enterprise-ready features that can take a lot of the development teams to the next level when it comes to local cloud development and testing. And this is not just a big milestone for our company, but also for the community, for the trust that you have put in us. And I'm just so excited about the whole thing. In case you have missed out the whole story, we'll put out a link to the blog. We'll put out a link to the blog on our chat. So just take a look, have a read at it, and let us know what you think. And if you're further interested to engage with us, just feel free to reach out via any of the channels that we have. Cool. Coming on to the second update, we are putting out the 4.0 release this week. And this is our fourth major release ever since the first major release that went out in 2022. And again, with every single major release, we put out a lot of breaking changes and deprecations. So as to make sure that you're ready for all the changes that would be coming in, we have written out a blog, which you can find in this link below. We'll also share the link on the YouTube chat or any of the other social media channels that you're watching this live stream on. And we implore you to take a look and be prepared for whatever is coming with this release. But just to give you a very broad level highlight, we are deprecating a bunch of service providers. And not just deprecating them, we are essentially removing them because some of these providers have been deprecated in the past releases. We are also deprecating some of the mechanisms like the API keys, or the init hooks, like the setting the AWS environment variables in init hooks, the local stack auth login. So you can just take a quick look at whatever we are deprecating and whatever we are removing in the blog itself, and you can take the necessary steps in making sure that your team migrates to whatever is latest and available in LocalStack 4.0. Also, just to give a quick update, the changes have already hit the latest LocalStack Docker image. So if you pull in the latest LocalStack Docker image right now, you will obviously see that these changes are now implemented. So please take some preventive measures. And in addition, the 4.0 tagged release will be going out in a couple of days. November 21 is the tentative date. So just ensure that you take a look at all our releases page or our social media, and we'll keep you updated whenever 4.0 is out. Now, with that said, let's invite the speakers onto the stage. We have Przemek with us, we have Avinash with us. Przemek is joining us from Poland, Avinash is joining us from India. Welcome, both of you. How's it going?
Good, good. How are you?
Just regular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Harsh, for the giving opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. By the way, I met Avinash like the last year when I was organizing one of the in-person meetups in India. So I'm just so excited to have him for this virtual meetup as well. And as I was talking with Shemek, who is on my team and with whom I kind of work and meet a lot, this is one of the first times he's actually speaking at a meetup. So just folks, don't make him nervous. He's gonna be speaking for the first time. Yeah, cool, cool. Awesome then. I guess now that we have both the speakers in, and I guess I already introduced them, anything else that you'd like to add, Shemek, Avinash?
Not really from my end.
Yep, we are good.
Awesome then. So I believe let's move ahead and just take a quick look at the Slido link that we would be using for the day. So our Q&As run on the Slido sessions. So you can take a look at our Slido by going to the slido.com and just entering this particular code, which is 2565696. Or else you can just scan this QR code and you can be directly a part of the Slido session. Most of these Slido sessions can, or these questions can be just put up anonymously. So please don't shy away from putting up your questions in, and we will just take them at the end of the respective sessions. So hang tight, put on all your questions in, and I'm pretty sure that the speakers will have a lot of fun time in answering them. But with that said, let me not beat around the bush any further, and let's bring our first speaker on the stage, which is Shemek. So I believe, Shemek, the stage is all yours. Let's please educate us about what's new in the Snowflake Emulator.
All right. So hello once again. My name is Przemek. I work as a senior software engineer at LocalStack. Currently building LocalStack Snowflake Emulator. So yeah, let's kick off the presentation. So yeah, why we are here and what is LocalStack Snowflake Emulator? It's used to emulate Snowflake SaaS products. You can find documentation in the link that I presented. Yeah, we recently released the 0.2.4 version of Snowflake Emulator. So we can go and check out the release notes in the change log in the link which I shared on the slides. We are also planning to announce GA of Snowflake Emulator next year. We still have lots of things to do, but yeah, that's an early plan. So yeah, I will present right now what we added recently. So recently we added support to storage integration. So right now you can create storage integration and run describe storage integration queries, drop storage integration, show storage integration. So these are supported in the emulator. Next, we added support for file formats. So it's now possible to create a named file format that describes a set of stage data. So here is also the list of supported commands: create, describe, drop, show, alter file format. And Yeah, we can create a stage right now with named storage integration and file format with the queries from the previous slides. So yeah, stages in Snowflake are used to load the data into the Snowflake, and we support it in the emulator right now. So the other feature we added recently is tag support, which allows to apply tags to Snowflake tables, views, or databases. Also, list of supported tags queries, create, show, alter, drop. These are all supported in the emulator, and tags are used mostly for the compliance purposes or just for cost tracking in Snowflake. We also added support for clones to the emulator, so we can quickly duplicate the database schemas or tables using create table clone or create schema clone, create database clone queries. It's also right now supported in the emulator. And yeah, this is a very cool feature. Init scripts. So init scripts helps with initialization of Snowflake resources to populate Snowflake instances with test objects or configurations. And use cases for that are automated initialization, so we can quickly initialize our test objects in Snowflake. And we can also ensure that we have a consistent environment by preloading Snowflake. We also added support for iceberg tables. So iceberg table is iceberg is a open table format, which quickly captured the mindset of data engineers and is gaining popularity in the data engineering space. So it's like an abstraction layer on the data file stored in open formats. So yeah, we can right now use iceberg tables in the Snowflake emulator. I will present it in the demo how it can be used. We also support ephemeral instances with Snowflake emulator. So it allows to run LocalStack Snowflake instances in the cloud. And once it's created, you can copy the URL of the ephemeral instance and go to the ephemeral instance and run queries directly from the UI or use it within your scripts. So yeah, our next plans for Snowflake Emulator is to announce GA next year. As I said, it's still lots to be done, but yeah, that's the plan. Right now, Snowflake Emulator works only in auto commit mode, and we are planning to add a transaction support to increase the feature parity with Snowflake. We want to enhance function coverage and implement additional Snowflake SQL functions. We also support automated replication mechanism to copy resources from real Snowflake service into the Snowflake emulator, which I believe is really cool use case here. And also we'll be adding new integrations between AWS services and Snowflake in the local emulator, including some Kinesis streaming, SageMaker for ML training, or EMR Glue for data jobs. So yeah, let's go to the demo right now. I will present all features that I described on the slides right now. So yeah, let's kick off the demo. So let's start with describing what I have here on the screen. So on the left, there is dbeaver connected to LocalStack Snowflake emulator, which I will start in a second on the right side in the terminal window. So yeah, we're gonna kick things off with looking at the init scripts. So yeah, this is init scripts used to initialize Snowflake resources. So create database, create schema table, plus insert some data into this table. So to run the script, I need to pass an extra Docker flag to LocalStack start command. So as you can see here, I just point init script to the init ready service, and it will create all the resources for me. So I will start the emulator right now. Emulator is starting. Let's wait a couple seconds for the emulator to start successfully. So it's still starting, and we can see it's ready now at the bottom. And we see here also queries executed in the emulator using the init script. So create schema, create table, and insert, etc. So right now, let's go to the beaver and try to run some queries. So first of all, we want to verify that objects are created correctly using init tool. So let's run the first query. As you can see, we can successfully run a select statement and select the data from the table created by init hooks. So that's good. Next one is clone the table. So we want to clone the table using the clone command. And we're going to clone the table which was created by the init hook. So let's run this query. And verify if the table is successfully cloned. Yeah, I can select from a new clone table. So right now, let's create a file format which is supported right now. So first, create a file format, then create storage integration. Storage provider here is S3, and I'm gonna use LocalStack S3 bucket. Here I provide the just some dummy role since we are using the local bucket. And as a storage allowed locations, I just simply point to a S3 bucket. So let's run it. Yeah, so it's created, and by the way, you can see all the queries being executed in the container, the logs here on the right. So next, let's create a stage with storage integration we previously created and file format. So yeah, that's also supported. Query is run successfully. And we can verify if the stage was created. Yeah, it is. And here are the properties of stage. So you see the properties of file format, properties of storage integration, and property of stage itself. So next, I'm gonna create tag. Let's run this query, create tag, and show tags to verify if it's created. So here is the name. I like tags, so it matches the tag created here. So all good. We're able to tag resources and create tags right now. So I will jump now to creation of the iceberg tables, and to do this, I need to create a S3 bucket called test bucket. So let's go here, test bucket. I'm gonna use the AWS local wrapper to create a bucket. So yeah, bucket is successfully created, and right now I can come back to the dbeaver here and create an external volume, which is used to define the location of the data of files that Snowflake will use to store the table data. So yeah, let's run this query. So query is successfully executed. Again, I provided here a storage provider, which is S3, storage-based URL, which is the test bucket, which I created here. Also AWS role and encryption, which I think is default here. So next, I will create an iceberg table. So let's create an iceberg table here with this query. I will come back as well to here. So the iceberg table is successfully created. Using the external volume, test volume, and base location is test here in the catalog Snowflake. So table already exists, so we can insert the data to iceberg table now. Let's insert some data. Data is inserted correctly, and at the end, let's select from iceberg table. Yeah, success. So we see that iceberg table works fine in the emulator. So next, I'm gonna list all the files from test bucket to see whether the data is actually stored in the bucket itself. So to do this, let's run AWS local S3 ls and point to the bucket, and we can see the Parquet file created, which represents basically the iceberg table. So yeah, iceberg tables are supported now. So go ahead and use it. And last thing I'm gonna present are ephemeral instances. So let's go to our LocalStack app. Go to ephemeral instances, and here I can create an ephemeral instance. Just give it some name like test. Choose Snowflake preview. Also change the lifetime of the ephemeral instance up to 120 minutes. Can also add here some cloud pod settings, session settings, etc. And yeah, just click launch here. I'm gonna use the ephemeral instance, which I created just before the demo. So here is the ephemeral instance that I'm gonna present. Here's the URL of the instance. I opened here, and yeah, this is the Snowflake UI. I can run queries here, like select one, just to see whether it works. Yeah, it works fine. Also select current database test database here, and you can see there's a test database in the ephemeral instance. You can go to request logs to see all the logs and all queries executed by the emulator with additional properties and to like debug purposes and so on. And yeah, just one thing that I'm gonna show here is you can go to logs of the ephemeral instance and actually see the logs of the container. It's loading. Hopefully it will load successfully. Yeah, there's some error. Like I think the mockers are not with me, but yeah, believe me, it works fine. So yeah, I think that's all from my end. Yeah, looking forward to some questions. And thanks a lot for your attention.
Sounds great. So some of these features are not very alien to me because I have been instrumental in kind of just following up with all the updates, writing the documentation and everything. But it's just refreshing to just see a complete roundabout of all of the things that we have done so far. And it is kind of crazy that this is just the output of a few months of hard work, I would say. So it has been great. And coming to the second part, I guess we have a few questions that came in from the audience. So let's go over them one by one. So the first question that came in was, is there any feature to bring live Snowflake data to local database?
I think I mentioned it on the next plans that we are looking to implement something like that to load the data from Snowflake into the emulator. So this is like we are planning to implement something like this, but this is not currently supported yet.
Sounds good. And what about the proxy mode? Isn't it something that basically allows people to connect to a real Snowflake instance?
But like proxy mode is currently supported in the emulator, so we can use that. But it's more like to run a Snowflake emulator behind a proxy, not to like connect to Snowflake instance via proxy.
Sounds good. Yeah, thanks for helping me get around this. The next question that came on is, are there any plans to make simple querying of basic data in Snowflake emulation work with basic free community license, like the basic AWS bits? Anything that you can share about that?
We are not planning to do something like that and to allow the free community license to work with LocalStack Snowflake emulator. But for now, the product is in preview, so it's basically for free. You can go and check it out, try it out, and see whether it fits your purpose. So for now, you can just use it for free.
Makes sense. There has been another question about any plans to implement Snowflake Cortex AI. From what I remember and what I know, it's one of the recent Gen AI features that Snowflake has built out. So do we have any plans for that yet?
I would say it's pretty advanced Snowflake feature, so we are not currently planning to implement it, but we'll definitely look into this in the future. But no plans as for now.
And coming on to the last question is about the Terraform support on Snowflake. I guess this question came in from one of the people like who have been in the preview testing phase. So do we have any plans of improving the Terraform support, if at all?
So yeah, we recently improved the support of Terraform Snowflake provider, so you can check it out. It works better than before, maybe not ideal, but in the future we also planning to integrate Terraform Snowflake provider tests into our pipeline to make sure that all possible combinations are supported with Terraform. So yeah, we are planning to do so for sure.
Sounds good. I guess this was not the last question, I would say, but the other questions they have been already covered by you in your further slides. For example, the Snowflake web UI. You can basically use a web UI for Snowflake by going to snowflake.localhost.localstack.cloud :4566. That's what you can use right now, and this is shipped alongside the Docker image itself. So you don't have to go to another web app and sign up over there, but this might change obviously in the future. And I guess Przemek has already outlined a pretty well-detailed plan for the Snowflake GA. So just keep an eye out, and I would just say reach out to us if you're interested in using the local stack for Snowflake Emulator. We also have like a way where you can directly get in touch with us if you wanna request a demo or something. So I'll share the link right over as a banner. So just feel free to take a look and feel free to reach out if you want to schedule a session with us and you want to learn more about the different use cases that LocalStack can solve for you in the Snowflake data realm. So I guess this was it for the session. Thanks a lot, Przemek, for this insightful talk. And it was pretty good. So kudos on that. But let's bring the next speaker on the stage. And this is going to be Avinash, who would be walking us through how to test Elasticsearch and ElastAlert in LocalStack. So Avinash, all over to you.
Thank you, Harsh. Yeah. So in this session, I'm going to talk about how to use the Amazon Elasticsearch, which actually incorporated with the Kibana dashboard. Kibana is a monitoring tool where generally it happens, right? And with that Kibana dashboard, how do we trigger the alert by using the Elasticsearch and specifying the specific matrices or specification of any search, right? Any word like maybe a CPU is high, like that percentage, or some page is down, some text messages, right? That we can use it, right? And how do we test that locally? And that too using the local style approach, right? That we are going to talk about in this today's section. Yeah. So let me just go to the next slide. Yeah, so just quick questions like how many of you have spent hour of debugging production alert only to realize they could have been caught earlier in development cycle? Maybe we'll check out like how many cycle, but I actually face this issue. Many of alerts are actually failed, and we don't know what happening there. They're due to some integration issue. There are multiple things are there, right? And that was the reason. And I think many of you might also face similar issue. And always good to check before you do anything. Alert mechanism also test them locally. That at least your integrations, if you are doing any webhook integrations like any Slack, Optiony, right, or maybe the email or mobile we should test it out that way. Otherwise, in the last minute, we will have like out surprises on that one. So with this one, I have a story to talk about it. Like, so it's like when I was working in Angular, right? So I got a task assigned to me that we have to migrate all the Slack alert to the MS team. So we are migrating to the MS team, Microsoft team, right? So for that one, we were like started looking into that. How do we do that? In terms of integrations wise, it was very small changes. Like I have to just update the webhook parameters and the code change was done. But I took this as a challenges and think about why not to test this alert first, whether really the webhook is working or not, which I have created are triggering those realistic alerts, those messaging are very prompt to act upon that or not. That can be checked or not. And then while doing this one, I figure out okay, some new solution which is interesting one, which is the local stack, and along with the integration with the Elast alert, and I stumble upon that solution. And then I started looking into that. Okay, this can be helpful because that was the use the same AWS cloud environment you can bring down to your locally and test out that one. So in this session, so we are going to talk about like how do we use the Amazon Elasticsearch, that is the ES service, into the locally with the help of the another service called ElastAlert, which I'm going to talk about it using the local stack. So let's game begins. So before you start about like the actual demo, right? Let's talk about what these other components like. The Elasticsearch is another distributed RESTful search mechanism, and it actually is actually the analytic engine used for the wide variety of use cases like logging, matrices, analysis, and search engine. And you might found this in most of the uh, APM software or in Kibana, the most famous, which is easy integration with the Kibana side, right? They generally use it, and their search mechanism is built. And you might, and this is actually the engine is built on top of that Apache Lucene engine. Lucene engine is very powerful search engine, and on top of that, it use it. And this is like that the Elastic one, and it belongs to the Elastic software company. And so Elastic is belong to the Elastic company, right? But still Elastic services provided in the AWS, right? So that's how the Elasticsearch in AWS. So AWS provide a managed service called Amazon Elasticsearch, the service which actually simplify and set up the management of Elastic cluster. So you don't need to host your Elastics into your simply VM or EC2 machine. That is like the thing is there. So Elasticsearch service from the Amazon provide you the end-to-end setups and the management of the Elastic cluster. So how exactly it helps? As I mentioned, right, it's actually used into the logging, monitoring analysis like that, right? It actually help in the three aspect here. First is the collecting those log matrices or data dumped by our applications. It index properly with the writing font and also it analyze also. So there are these aspects actually used by the Elasticsearch which help us to trigger the right alerting which is required where the required is by the developer attention to look into that if something goes wrong. Okay, so that's exactly how it helps it. So, but what is the Elastic Alert? I was talking from a long time, right? Like since my beginning of session, the Elastic Alert. So, Elastic Alert is another open source framework. Actually, it's built on top of the Elasticsearch. It is not belong to Elastic company, but it's the open source framework. You can always find out in the Google like Elastic 2, and this is a GitHub page screenshot which I have attached here. We can talk about this one. So it can be configure a different types of alert mechanism based on the query, based on the threshold, and you can trigger the notification. Can be Slack, it can be email, or any other communication which support a webhook mechanism. Okay, that can be used. In this demo, we are going to talk about a small REST API webhook, how it can get receive the response, and how can we see that, right? That's exactly about the alert, alert one. So you can go to the Elastic page and look into that. It has very amazing mechanism to trigger your alert using your Elasticsearch one. So what are the different type of alert types is supported by the Elasticsearch, right? As I mentioned, it first provided threshold based alert, like trigger when there is a specific threshold has exceeded or down like below the previous threshold, right? So that we know that and we can act upon immediately, right? Those kind of alert we can trigger here. Example, CPU threshold is goes about 70%. Your RDS utilizations has gone up, or your RDS kind of max connection almost reach 1,000 connection. Those kind of alert we can triggers here, so that also supported here. Second is missing data alert, like trigger if specific log is missing, specific data is missing, or specific page is not working, like login page, or maybe you have any transaction based monitoring which is not working. That can be also triggered by using this alert type. Third is time-based alert. You can trigger a specific alert based on the time duration, like 10 seconds, 50 seconds, 30 seconds, or 10 minutes, also 1 hour also. That can be also possible. And it supports the different types of alert, as I mentioned, right? Threshold is heartbeat alert, fight-beat alert. So heartbeat is belong to the mostly threshold alert, fight-beat belong to the mostly data alert, or specific to the dump of the log that can be seen here. So those are type of alert are supported by the Elastic alert. So now coming back to the local stack, right? So the why local stack? As I mentioned, right, I stumbled upon local stack by finding out and by looking at the curiosity of how do I test those infrastructure in my locally, right? Before it actually merge the PR and deploy the production one, and that's why the local stack come into the picture. So obviously it's cost efficient, faster development cycle, and safe testing. Why cost efficient? You don't need an AWS resource doing the local section, right? It actually replicate the same thing locally. It is not going to cost you about AWS. It just use your the credentials like that, and it replicate a similar kind of mirror one. That is how it's cost efficient. So you don't have to test on test environment, develop sandbox environment like that. You can do it by yourself. Obviously, it is faster development. Why? It has a good extension in Docker image is there, and you can just click on the extension, install it, and start using it. Very one step click options is there with that one. You can start immediately that part. And safe testing, as I mentioned, right, you can simulate those errors locally in early in your development environment so that you can fix those errors and can make sure your transition to a production gets smoother. That is why it is safer in terms of testing. So, as I mentioned, a local stack versus AWS cloud testing, right? The testing locally allow you to catch the issue earlier and development cycle and ensure a smooth development when migrating to AWS. And that's why I prefer local stack testing while doing it. And in my day-to-day work also, I still use the local stack not only in terms of ElastAlert, but by testing by other services also, which I need to make sure that things are getting smoother. So now it's showtime. Done with the theory. Let's walk through what is there. To that one, I will walk through on the blog which I have written is, and also I recorded a YouTube session. I will share my links in my comment section later. But let's walk through how exactly it's happening. Let me share my another screen here. So this is a blog. So my blog name is Internet Katta, where I keep sharing a lot of learning experiences which I've come across with. So I written a blog about test lateral locally with the lat one. So we will skip that initial introduction to use the to use. So let me share the screen back. Stop sharing. Okay, now we are in block. So this is a block one. So it required a prerequisite as a trait. So it required a Python locally to run it because ElastAlert repository done by the Python. So you needed a Python. You can use a 3.7 Python or above from that, and you can download it like that. Then AWS CLI, obviously, because you are going to replicate the same thing. You are going to run the AWS ES command like that. So you need an AWS CLI to manage the local services easily. You can always go to the AWS CLI instruction guides, which is given links in blog or even in the Google. Obviously, Docker is required because you're going to run the Docker image into local stack, and that's how exactly going to. So we are going to use by using the Docker desktop local extension here. So Docker desktop has the another extension called LocalStack. You can install it LocalStack by using it. So let me showcase that one before I go to that one. Let me share Docker one. So here is a local stack description. You can always, I already have a use that local stack, so my information is already there, but you can always go to the add extension, search for the local stack extension, and you can find out. You can just search for local stack here. So you will find out here. So already the installer session to open it. So you click on here, and once it's installed, you can just click on the start button, and your local stack image is ready to use it. You can see here what are the services are available from the AWS side. All the plenty of services are available. You can use it as you can always find logs here. If any issues are there with the local stack, you can always find logs and you can see that. So that's about the this one about Docker one. Let me go back to again the my presentation. This one, blog side. Yeah. So here we are going to create the local stack instance in your locally. So as I mentioned, like you should we have the AWS CLI installed it. So command we need to run is like AWS ES. AWS ES is the Elasticsearch and services, which will have a function called create ElasticAlert domain. Domain name you can give it as whatever you want. I am going to use the testing locally. And endpoint will be something like the endpoint which we have got created from the our local extension that is called http colon local slash colon 4566. Local stack extension run on the 4566 port number, so you can use it that one. Once we run this command, right, you will find out the output like this. So you will see the domain status and you will get the ARN called this one and the endpoint which you want to use it that you will get it. So this is like a domain name which you have provided like testing locally.us ES2 version, ES local stack 1 cloud 45661 and this other specific details will be there like medium E3 uh, that's not important but we can always look into that information. So that way we can always look into that. So how and whether your Elastic service is locally mirror or not, how do we check that? You can run this command aws es describe Elasticsearch domain. You can specify domain name, testing locally, and the endpoint will be there. It will generate a similar output, and if you are able to see the similar output, it means that your Elastic services are getting replicated by using the local stack, and you are ready to start using the local stack Elastic service here. So now next step is like we should actually open up the Elastic Alert one GitHub profile. So this is the GitHub clone is there. You can always look into that. Google also search for ElastAlert. Git clone this repository and go to the CD folder of Elastic 2, and then you have to create the configuration file. So currently the configuration file will be available into the example folder inside this one. So you need to copy that config.yml.xaml file and create your own YAML file, and you need to make sure to make changes into that. I will show you what changes you need to make there. So from the Elastic search output, right, you need to copy this URL. Okay, that is the endpoint. Let's copy this URL. So you need to use that one into the your one. So once you clone this, go to the Elastic Alert folder, and as we have done the cp command, you need to update that one. So let me share my another screen, terminal one. So here I am into the my folder. So you can see that the folders are already clones here. I hope my terminal is visible properly. So here you can see the example folder. So under the example folder, right, you will have that configure.yml for example. Since I already done that configuration, so configure.yml file is already there. Let's look at the how exactly look it. So this is a file. You don't need to do much in changes in that. Just update the ES port into 4566 and just change the ES underscore host file to the URL which you have copied. Like, so the blog is mentioned the USS2, but here I'm using the USS2 one. So I'm going to use this URL here. So you can use this site, and then you can ready to go. So you can just control exit and done complete that one. After this one, you need to if you are using the Python 3, so you need to install the pipe 3, install -r and requirement. Let's go back to the earlier folder. Here it will be requirement file. So you need to install pipe 3, install -r requirement.txt file. And this will install our requirement which mentioned already there inside that one. And after this command, you can I already done the installation, so I will keep this step. You need to do the setup.py file and install this. Will install the Elastic Alert packages and ElastAlert also with this one. So required installation can be done here. For more troubleshooting, you can always watch out the YouTube session which I embedded into my blog. It has a multiple issues out there. If you can face it, and you can troubleshoot that specific alert. So once we done that this step, you will create the ElastAlert. So we'll go back to our example folder again. There's a lot of examples are available under the rule folder. You can go to the rules. So you can see that the example of Gini frequency, example C have frequency like that. So I have created one sample into the example .error.yml file. You can see that I am going to test login page name, where I'm going to include some filter parameter called timestamp, monitor.name, monitor.status, and evapplication.names like that. And my type will be frequency. And I mentioned that a local Elastic Alert type, right? Frequency. So we are going to use the frequency here, and the threshold frequency are there, right? Similar. And the number of event will be 1. Time frame I'm going to 10. So when we are searching the alert anything that you're not, it will check for duration of 10 minutes. If any alert or anything is searched are available or any issues happening between that 10 minute of duration, you can always look into that. If you want to keep it a duration lesser into the second, so just change that under the time frame attribute minute to second and update that 50 second or 10 second or 5 second. For a testing purpose, I just use the 10 second. The index will be a file bit. So I'm going to create a file bit index here. So I will keep the file bit index hyphen star. So which way the file bit hyphen 1, 2, number, whatever it is, right, it's going to be covered here. The filter query will be like when the monitor.name is equal to test monitor name, and monitor.status will be down. So here we'll be using, and I'm going to alert the power automate. I just use it right and use the webhook URL here. This webhook URL I have temporarily created into the dummy webhook one. So you can see that the whatever the response you are sending from here, it's getting received into that particular webhook site. So we will keep that webhook. So that's about this part is. So now we are going to create an index and sample data. What we have to do it, we have to create a first. Let me just open it up. So I will create this command, the curl -x put my testing, that is the host which I copied from my Elasticsearch domain search output, that will use, and slash file bit -1. So it will create one file bit one. So it is acknowledged to. Now once it's create, you need to create now the proper alert and dummy alert, right? To use the dummy alert. So before that we need to check what is the date currently is there, so that you can use the date specifically. This alert is triggered into specific date within that 10 minute of duration. So the current date is 15:53. So I will update it to specific to plus and minus some 3 or 5. So I will update to 50 here. And now I'll copy this one, the testing one. This is my alert. I'm going to create it, which is the curl x my put command to the display file bit -1 underscore doc slash 1. This is the first alert I'm going to use it. And my message will be like test log entry, and my monitor name will be test monitor and status down. So same data will be generated. So it like we are generating the data into your Elasticsearch so that our alert can fetch the specific data from it. So let's enter it, and it got created successfully here. Now let's look at to the check that whether its alerts are available or not. I will just run this command to get it and see that yes, you can see here the secret is there. This is a new alert has been created just now. So now let's run the our actual query which we want to do it to test the Elast alert. So I will use the, let me see if I can find, yes. So command will be like last alert -test -rule. My example one rules, example slash rule. So what I'll do, I have already have inside the example folder. So I will come out of the first folder and go to the root one, so that I will be inside one, and I'll copy this one. Sorry, I copy wrong one. So I will copy this and this one. So it will be ElastAlert test rules, example slash rule. I can specify which rule I want to test it. So we have made a change in example underscore a.yml file. That is the -alert and -config. The config file will be example slash config.yml file. If your config file into the root folder, you don't need to mention it, but your config file will mention other folder, you have to view that path by using -config file. So let's look at this one. It will take a couple of seconds. So let's hold tight. Cool. So now you can see here the one hit we got it. Our things was between the 1950, 55 to 56 in between that one, and we matched the found. And this is the webhook URL got triggered. So I will show you now the another screen which talk about the testing webhook one, how data is tested. So this is the latest data which we just now we received. You can see that the current timing 24:25 is for the Indian time, and you can see that this is the latest data which we got it. So means that whatever the webhook URL you're going to post it, that will post data as a payload into the your webhook one. It can be your Microsoft Team, it can be Microsoft Power Automate, it can be Pingdom, it can be Opgenie. Anything can be used by using this alert. And this is how exactly we can test it out those alerts. So let me stop my screen again and share it back. The blog site. So that's how exactly we have tested one. So I mentioned some troubleshooting triaging mechanism also. If you want to delete existing index, you can always use the curl hyphen delete side by specifying your domain name and specifying your file bit which you have created upper side. Okay, and then you can post with the refresh side. You can refresh the indexes. If you want to search specific one, you can always use a gate. If you want to space specifically that one, you can use the specific filter like monitor status colon down. For check the indices, you can use the indices one and make sure you are using the correct timing. If you are not getting triggered by like the hits are 00, if you are having 11, so make sure the timings are as per your machine. So use that date hyphen minus u so that you will get a correct timing which you are going to use it. And if you want to debug this alert, right, you can always use hyphen hyphen verbose command and yeah, type parameter. So which can be help you to debug what exactly happening wrong so that you can fix out very easily. So that's about overall demo. And as I mentioned in this blog, you can always look into the this demo as a good troubleshooting site, and you can always look into that one. Uh, so I will stop sharing this and go back to my presentation again. So that's how our demo was done. And as we are concluding these sessions, right, is this is a setup actually is ideal for development and testing environment where you can validate your alerting rules before deploying them to production. Feel free to use this one and do let me know if you see any issue. I will try to help you into that case. Okay, and that's with this one I will conclude my session. So let me just here the reference are there. You can take a screenshot, and even I will share the link into the chat history also for your references. You can always go into that. And thank you very much. And you can connect with me over my Twitter, Avinash Dalvi underscore. I run a YouTube channel called Learn with Avinash Dalvi, where I shared learning every Tuesday and Saturday. And here my website is there, avinashdalvi.com. You can find all my social profile, or you can feel free to scan this QR code. And with this, I'll end my session and hand over to the Harsh. Thank you.
Thank you, Avinash, for walking us through the whole demo. It was really great, really insightful just walking through the whole stuff. We have a few questions coming up over here. So, yeah, the first question that popped up was, is there any way to get those sample alert files? I guess this question came up like when you were showing like the whole list of sample files that you have. Have you put them in some sort of a repository or made them publicly available? Or is there any way we can get our hands on those?
Yeah, so that is available under the ElastAlert 2 GitHub repository. So if you go to the GitHub and search for the Elast, or even open the ElastAlert 2, I will share into the chat history also. Open the ElastAlert GitHub one, so you can. I will share here, so you can share into with user. That will be have the example folder, and inside the folder, the rule folder will be there. There, all type of samples are available, like including the threshold alert, including the frequency alert.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. I have just put this out on the YouTube live chat. So, yeah, anyone who would like to just refer to those sample files can just check out this particular repository. Cool. The second question that came out was, what specific alerts do you test with LocalStack? I always find time and threshold alerts tricky to begin with.
Okay, so I tested with the thresholds also for CPU use time. Yeah, there is always struggle with that one, but we have to properly play around with the request sample data which we actually going to provide it, right? That should be matching to specific that query. As I show into the sample one, right, where we query specific data, right? So CPU uses CPU dot usage greater than 50% like that. So make sure you are entering those sample data rightly into the that ElastAlert services so that you can test it out, right? But yes, I have
Sounds good.
tested this thresholds alert with the LocalStack.
Mhm. Sounds good. Cool. I guess the last question that came out was, does ElastAlert work with OpenSearch? Will the same demo run on OpenSearch? Because I guess a lot of people have well migrated from using Elasticsearch to OpenSearch as well, which is the managed service from AWS. So What are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, so actually it's not support with this because Elastic currently has the framework built on top of the Elasticsearch itself, and that's the name also belong to ElastAlert, like Elastic from that and an alert. So that is our currently supporting on that.
Yep, makes sense. I guess there was another question, but it is more a question for us. Is LocalStack Docker Desktop better than the desktop application? So if you're referring to the LocalStack desktop app that we distribute, I would say it is the other way around. Our own desktop application is a bit better than the Docker desktop extension, because the Docker desktop extension is just a visual layer that allows you to
Yeah,
see
yeah,
what you have running, the logs, set up the configuration profiles. With desktop application, you also get the resource browser, so you can see what Elasticsearch domains you have created, the clusters that you have set up, or any of the other associated details. So you have basically a CRUD layer where you can pretty much manage all of your resources. So I believe that this answers the question. But with that said, we are at the end of the meetup. So thanks again, both the speakers who really had some pretty amazing stuff to share with us. So thanks, Przemek. Thanks, Avinash, for participating and volunteering for this meetup. As about the upcoming ones, the next meetup is gonna be a big one because we are eventually be gonna talk about the 4.0 release and all of the big things that we are putting out with this major release. That is going to happen in either the second week or the third week of December. The meetup page would be up very, very soon, in maybe a couple of days from now. And if you would like to get updated whenever the 4.0 release goes out, then make sure that you follow us on our social media channels, more specifically LinkedIn, Twitter, X, whatever you end up calling this, or our new social profile on Blue Sky. You can just visit LocalStack on any of these platforms and you should be able to find us. But once again, thanks for participating in these LocalStack community meetups. We really appreciate it. Even we go through like the whole struggle of organizing this virtually. But I really appreciate the great community that we have been building and the support that you have been bestowing upon us. So I would say thanks again, and I'll see you in the next meetup. Have a good rest of the day for everyone.